laid off, Stones, City back in it. The prolific John Stones. Rodri, maybe a shooting chance, tries it, scores! Rodri with an absolute peach!
Kevin De Bruyne! Manchester City take the lead!
A very happy Sunday to Manchester City fans all around the world. Thank you for joining us and welcome to Matchday Live as we embark on our final fixture of our pre-season tour. After 2 victories over Yokohama and Bayern, can we make it 3 out of 3? Well, standing in our way of doing that are Atletico Madrid. It's been a brilliant tour so far and hopefully we'll be going out on a high. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Cel Spellman and it is so great to be with you as we take on Atletico Madrid. Kick-off in just over an hour's time. But before all of that, we've got some brilliant build-up and we will also be going live to South Korea where we have the team over there in the form of FG, Joleon, Lescott and Shaun Wright-Phillips. But more importantly, the team with me in the studios, Mr. Nedum Onuoha, Steph Houghton and, of course, Mr. David James. So great to be with you all this morning. Steph, quick mention of the World Cup because you've been super busy. I mean, we're lucky to have you today.
Yeah, very lucky now, you messing. No, I mean, been busy doing the games and it's been a great tournament so far and yeah, it's going to get even more exciting over the next few days, I think.
Absolutely. And David, we've seen 2 games so far. What has been your assessment of the pre-season so far?
I think the Pep and the team will be happy. Obviously, more so than anything else, the fact that there's been so many changes and everyone's getting a look in. I think Bernardo Silva maybe has played the least amount of time, or the most, depending on how you look at his substitutions. But yeah, I think tonight's game or today's game will be wonderful, knowing that the next game is for a trophy. And they've already done the trophy pre-season practice in the first game. So they've warmed up for that area.
Looking, when we get the team news, which will come up in just a second, Nedum, do you think this is going to be a kind of little nod to possibly what we might see in the Community Shield against Arsenal next weekend?
Possibly. I think in most situations, logically, you'd say, yeah, that's what it's going to be. But because it's Pep Guardiola and Man City and the squad that they have, you just don't know, dear. You know what I mean? You just don't know. But I think there'll be a sense of familiarity with most of the players that will be out there today. I'm sure they want to finish off the tour really well, and then it's business as usual from the moment they fly back. It's the Community Shield. It's going to be a tough game. It's at Wembley. It's against Arsenal. You know, what a great way to start the season that could be with a win.
Couldn't agree more. With the opponent being Atletico Madrid, Steph, we were saying on our pitch side review show yesterday, we have memories of that Champions League game, very fiery, a bit tasty. Do you think we might be upping the ante from our last 2 games in Yokohama and against Bayern Munich?
I think you would have to against the Simeone side. I think obviously previous games against Atletico Madrid, it always has been feisty, and the game that remembers, I think, is more when Foden gets kicked on the floor and there's like a massive crowd of players and Grealish's hair gets pulled. So yeah, I mean, even though it is pre-season, you never know what could happen, but I'm sure the boys will be up for it.
Absolutely. And I guess, David, as well, that's kind of what you almost want, is these games that are just going to help you get up to that, I guess, that game level standard that we know is going to be happening all throughout the season. Yeah,
it's interesting what Steph's saying there, because when you think of the younger players, McAtee, Bob, to get the experience of playing these, even in the pre-season, I think Pep gets the opportunity then to say, well, actually, if I keep these guys around the squad as part of our Champions League team, they're getting the experience. Bayern Munich last match, this time with Atletico Madrid. All these things add to his, he's got this recipe, hasn't he, for success, and who's going to be part of that ingredient. So, ramping up a little bit. Yep. Not sure about the hair pulling, whether that's needed, but it could be good practice.
Yeah, Jack Grealish will be ready, whatever the weather anyway, I know that for sure. Well, let's see if Jack Grealish is starting the first half. As we know, we've kind of seen 2 11s in each half in pre-season. Will that continue? Let's find out. Pep has chosen this team to take on Atletico Madrid. Ederson in goal. Kyle Walker remains captain of the side. He's then alongside John Stones, Ruben Diaz and Aymeric Laporte. As we move into midfield, Rodri, Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden. Been great to see him playing a little bit more centrally over pre-season. And then our forward 3 consisting of Jack Grealish, Julian Alvarez and Erling Haaland. The bench is jam-packed as well. All players there ready to go. Ortega, Carson, Phillips, Ake, Cancelo, Kovacic, De Bruyne, Gomez, Akanji, Perone, Bob, Palmer, Rico Lewis and James McAtee. Now, before we get thoughts from our guests here in the studio, let's hear from one man who is in that starting 11. We can now hear from Rodri. Here he is speaking to FG ahead of the game.
Welcome to Matchday Live. It is with pleasure to say I am joined by Rodri. Roger, there's only one place to start with you, and it is that iconic goal in our last competitive game. Please just talk me through your feelings of scoring that memorable goal for this club.
Well, of course, one of the best moments in my life, for sure. So special in the way we did it. Of course, always when you are decisive in terms of goal, I don't score many goals, but it was incredible for the team, for the club, for the history of the club all these years. And for me, because of course my career changed from that moment, but I want to keep the same way, try to grow every year, and very happy and satisfied with what happened.
You just don't score bad goals, and you score goals at such amazing moments. If there was a player who deserves it, it was definitely you. Let's talk about another City legend who's also Spanish as well, who's just recently retired, David Silva. What about his impact he's had on you personally, on Spanish football and football in general?
Yeah, I talked to him because I talked to him a few days before. I congratulate him for all his success in his career. It was unbelievable. I remember he was the main guy who helped me when I first arrived to City. He introduced me in the club, in the English culture, advised me everywhere. I remember him watching when I was a kid in the Euros, in the World Cup at City, and for me it was already a legend. And when I have the pleasure to play with him, nothing much to say. A big legend in my country, in England, and a special player. I think we're not going to have any other David Silva.
He's one of a kind, that's for sure. Let's talk about the Asia Tour. It's the last leg of the Asia Tour now. How's the tour been for you? The welcome from the fans has been incredible, and the stadiums have been great as well, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we came from a country like England that is always so crowded, and the people is crazy about football. But then when you come to Asia, to Japan, and now to South Korea, it's unbelievable. The feelings, the people, they love football, they love the passion, and they're always with a big smile, no matter if it's hot, cold, they don't care, they just support you. The other day in the training, 25,000 people, unbelievable today, I don't even know. But especially every time we come to Asia, I'm very glad for they receive me.
Well, Rodri, best of luck for the season ahead, and I hope you enjoy the game today as well.
Thank you guys, thank you so much.
Take care. Thank you, man.
Thanks, FG, and thanks.
Was that FG trying to shake his hand? Oh, no way. Was that even trying to shake?
I don't know if it was the handshake or if we disguised it for the match.
Well done, FG. Great start to the season,
we'll have to get a replay on that. But just quickly, you said there, what a season that man had.
Yeah.
I mean, scoring a goal in the Champions League final.
The winning goal.
Player of the tournament.
Yeah.
Arguably as well up there as one of our player of the seasons as well. What a man.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And he just seems so humble with it as well. You know, I think the fact that he was available for pretty much every game as well last year, he's formed like a pillar of what that team is. And I think given the fact that, say, in that first season, a few people were sceptical about him as a signing, but now he's just as important in this period as, say, Fernandinho was in the last. And he's got that record. Who is the player to score the winning goal for Man City in the Champions League final? Well, it's that guy. It's Rodri. And, you know, for me, he does it all. He can defensively be very good, but he always wants to get on the ball, can get into more advanced areas. And as we look back last season, you know, he's a six, essentially, that scored some massive goals. I mean, from that distance, he's so good. I mean, go back a few months now, that left footer against Bayern Munich kind of set the tone for what that game would be in the, I think, in the quarter-final of the Champions League. So, fair play to him. He gets better and better each year, and he just goes about his business and makes it like it's routine.
Yeah, it's
I'm just going to send that into the corner, and then off we pop.
I do this with my eyes closed.
Yeah, exactly. What a guy.
Steph, I just said to Nedum as well, I mean, I am a bit biased, but for me, I do think he is possibly the best holding midfielder in football, particularly last season anyway. I couldn't think of anyone better.
Yeah, I think just to kind of say what Nedum said, I think in terms of an all-round midfielder, he has developed into that. I think we always were kind of like thinking about how he was athletically and his defensive capabilities, but he really showed last season, especially against the best teams in the Champions League, that there was no one better than him, and now he is popping up with goals, and he kind of goes under the radar sometimes in terms of how important he is to this City team, and I think his passing range has got so much better, but he's just able to manage people in front of him as well in the press. And yeah, I'm really, really impressed with him, and it was kind of fitting that he did score that winner in the Champions League, and yeah, the celebrations from us lot weren't too bad either.
Yeah, no, they were great. I very much enjoyed them. David, I mean, as we know, they vote for captains when they come back to Manchester. I think there's usually 5 captains. Ilkay Gundogan was number 1. He's gone. could be a contender to be a Manchester City captain, do you think?
I think so. I mean, Gundogan was an interesting one because to have the number one captain not start all the games. I mean, not that anyone. I'm trying to think. Did anyone start all the games last season? I don't think so. But Rodri was the highest, other than Edison, I think, played the most games the season before. Was probably top last season. So you've got a player who can be a captain, who's always going to be there, or pretty much always going to be there. And like Nedum says, I mean, he's just a decent bloke, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, one of my favourite things about I'm sure you two will appreciate.
No, I'm going to defend FG. I would have wanted to hug him afterwards. It was a lovely guy and a lovely interview.
There's a couple of great stories that when he was at Atletico Madrid, even though he was playing for the first team, he still chose to stay on like university campus to finish because he was doing a business degree, which he then completed when he came to Manchester. And I know it sounds silly, but it's those things off the pitch as well that I think give you a good measure of the man.
Yeah, I think to piggyback on what you're saying there, he's just a decent bloke, you know what I mean? Seems the type that both fits in the football world and will just fit in with just everyday life as well. You know, he loves his football. That seems to be his main focus. I think he gets battered for the fact that, you know, he doesn't spend a lot of money on clothes and things like that. But then you do need that sense of normality because I think that football bubble can sort of put you in a place where you think everything you see is perfectly normal. But for him, he's like grounding.
Yes.
He wants to play well, wants to work hard, wants to do well for his teammates and just be successful.
Yeah.
And, you know, what a person to have in your team.
What a man. Well, we can now see a replay of if FG went for a handshake or
Let's see, slow-mo this, please. Slow-mo this.
Let's have a look.
Okay, bye, my friend.
Oh, it was the man.
Fair play. Right, I'll walk it back. A little nod as well, FG, to let us know. Okay.
He also was quite traumatised by this.
He looks fuming.
This is why we have video. This is why we have video replay. I hold my hands up. I was wrong, FG. I walk it back.
I just love that we've got what a man he is. He looks like it's the most difficult interview he's ever had. We love you, FG. We're going to be hearing more from FG, who should be joined by Joleon and Shaun Wright-Phillips in just a little bit. Just to bring you some news as well, there's been some real heavy rain in Seoul, so they are going to delay kickoff slightly. We've not got the time yet, but as soon as we get that, I'll be able to bring it you straight away. And don't worry, it's going to go ahead. And if you want to watch that game when it does kick off, obviously, you know you can watch it on City Plus and on Recast, and of course, Coupang Play. That's if you're in South Korea. Also, a bit of housekeeping around EA Sports. Korean fans, very important for you if you're watching, because we've got something very special you can get involved with. You want to keep an eye on our Manchester City players' shorts. There's going to be an activation on there that you can get involved with it. Well, that might involve a surprise gift. Who knows? But if you're able to scan that, you'll be able to go to a very special place where there's a little prize and some other things up for grabs as well. That'll be available from Kickoff. So, looking at that starting 11, I mean, David, you said there, bar maybe one or two, that's probably the strongest team City can put out.
Yeah, looking back at the other couple of games, especially the first game, it looked like, it's a City squad, isn't it? So it looks like a strong team, whatever the first 11 is. But the second half 11 looked considerably stronger. This, I was looking at it like that could arguably take on Arsenal next weekend. Laporte and possibly Alvarez, perhaps. Could be changed to make it a little bit stronger depending on how they are at pre-season. But yeah, that looks like a very strong team.
Focusing on that defence then, as we've got Laporte in there, we're assuming it's going to be Walker, maybe a Stones, Diaz, Laporte, left back. Them four centre-halves that Pep had been trying for last season seemed to really work, Steph. Why was that working so well, do you think?
Yeah, it really worked because they're all very technical players and they know how to read the game, and 1v1 defensively they're very, very good. And we know with City that they like to keep the ball a lot, and when you have players that know how to control the game and the way that Pep wanted them to play with Stones maybe going into midfield, it really suited their style of player. And I mean, we speak about Laporte as if he shouldn't really be starting, but he's an absolutely world-class centre-half. And he's had so much competition in that area, and I hope he really does well, because even last season we talked about Nathan Ake, who signed a new deal and has had a fantastic season. There is competition in that left-back area or left centre-half area, with the likes of Akanji played there, and obviously now you've got Laporte potentially playing in there, but I think he shows so much quality, even popping up with a few goals here and there at set pieces. But look, I think that's what this squad needs, is that competition, because it really brings out the best in players.
It's difficult though, obviously, you know, what would have been Laporte going through last season, really not playing as much? It must be so difficult for them, especially when actually I'm up there as in the top 5, top 10 defenders in the world.
Yeah, he must be so frustrated, but I think when you look at the quality, it's kind of and you've got a manager who's absolutely world class. I think sometimes it's hard to argue that point, but there's obviously been a lot of rumours about him potentially going, but look, he's on this tour and he's doing well over the last 2 games. So I think all you can do as a player is really just fight for your place and really show the manager what you can do.
Absolutely. One person who is showing the manager what he can do and was doing last season is John Stones, the Barnsley Beckenbauer, I like to call him. I mean, already in a couple of games before as well, he's popped up with a goal. We're seeing him in that more attacking role, moving into centre midfield. Do we think we could get even better now that he's kind of starting to really feel comfortable in that?
Absolutely,
position?
Yeah. When you think about how many games he's actually played in this sort of hybrid role, it's not that many. Considering he's played hundreds of games in his career.
Yeah.
So he can still iron out certain little kinks within it and his understanding of the game itself. And as that happens, if you wanted to get better at football and be in a certain position, how about having some of these players around you? How about having one of the best managers in the, in the history of football? Being able to tell you, and he also, like Guardiola, played that position as well.
Yeah.
In terms of seeking guidance, it's absolutely perfect. But John's he's an incredible player. You can see that he loves playing his football, loves being around his teammates. Will not necessarily celebrate every goal he scores, which is a shame. But yeah, he's absolutely brilliant, and he knows he was such a big part of what was an historic season for City last year. So as the season rolls in now, which is a big season as well, with the Euros next summer,
yes,
he'll be striving to be getting better and better, and hopefully finish the year with even more titles and big confidence heading into that Euros.
It was, I don't know if I can say it, but it was such a ballsy performance from him in that Champions League final. The way, he lost that midfield.
Yeah.
Did you ever
go in
have
midfield?
A little dabble in midfield?
Usually when I went in midfield, it led to a yellow card. So you can make of that whatever you want, and it wasn't my intention to end up in midfield, but sometimes it's touch. It's a bit too far, and then collision, unfortunately. But such is life.
Such is life.
Such is life.
Ruben Diaz, of course, starting today. Once he came back last season, it was so influential, just kind of solidifying the defence. Again, possibly going to be one of the captains, but so key for this City team, isn't he, David?
Yeah, I mentioned this when I was here last weekend, and it sort of goes in line with all the players, Rodri, whoever. I mean, in a weird way, Erling Haaland scored, and forgive me for mentioning Erling Haaland rather than addressing Diaz directly. Erling Haaland scored all the goals he did, got all the headlines for all the goals he scored, and it was because he scored so many goals. He didn't do a lot other than score goals. Maybe 11 assists, but
outside of that,
yeah, maybe there was a little bit more. But everyone in this City side did what they needed to do when it needed to be done, and I think that Diaz fitted that model as well. He said when he came back in, all of a sudden things were solid, but Rodri in midfield, John Stones, you're talking there. And if I could just quickly touch on John Stones as you're talking, what he's going to find interesting, or what we're going to find interesting this season, everyone will have played him except for Luton Town. Everyone would have played City with John Stones playing that role.
Yes.
And they will try and work out how to stop him from doing what he's doing. I think the first time you come up against it, it's like, what do we do? There's a bit of familiarity. So again, this will be a test for John, Ruben and everyone in the team. Can they work out how to stop City doing that? I'm not saying they will, but they've had the experience once. Can we allow it to happen again? So,
to be honest, I think in regards to how they play, I think it'll change as well. I think the system the system that City finished with isn't the one that they started with.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the best things about them. They want to play winning football, and whatever that looks like is whatever it'll end up being. And if it's a case of John going into midfield, that's what it would be. But then you remember the Arsenal game at home in the league, John never touched into midfield.
Direct. Right.
Yeah, never went into midfield one time. And Arsenal, they looked like they were really set for a centre-back to go into midfield. Before you know it, Edison's got his foot on the ball. He could wait 5 minutes because nobody knows who's supposed to go to him.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I think that's the beauty of it. It's a great option to have, especially one where the ceiling is this high. But for them, they know there's another option. They'll probably take them to the same place.
Yeah.
But going back to what you said, about Diaz, because you'd asked the question, I think, again, because John or Rico or Carl Walker, because they all shared that role at some point, it actually put a bit more pressure on the defence because it was a different formation. And yes, he's stepped up
Yeah, he hasn't.
As he does, as you expect. My turn now. Okay, I'll take charge. Fine, thank you.
I'll take it. Final person that completes the defence start of the first half, Kyle Walker. Now, as you know, there's a lot of noise at the moment. The big noise out the club, I think, from staff and players that we all want him to stay. We all know how much he really does mean to this City team, not just off the pitch. Obviously, he's one of the captains, but on the pitch, Steph. I mean, his quality is like no other, and he is so unique in what he brings to the City team.
Yeah, for a full-back to have absolutely everything and have the speed that he does, there's no one better than him in the world, in my opinion. And I think he showed that over numerous occasions, especially in the Champions League when you're playing the likes of Vinicius, who was so quiet because of Kyle Walker. And from a player's perspective, I could probably understand why he is disappointed, because you played that well leading up to a Champions League, and then it comes to the final and you don't play that final game. We were all thinking, why is he not playing? He must be injured. Something must be happening. And then you watch him in the warm-up and he's pinging balls with Phil Foden, and you're thinking there's nothing wrong with him.
Yeah.
And you can see, but to be fair to him, he just gets his head down and he just tries and plays the way that he normally does. So, I mean, as a fan of the club and someone that I admire him, I want him to stay, because he deserves to be at the best club in the world, and he deserves to be playing in a system that does suit him. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens, but it just shows that he's got that responsibility of the captain's armband, and it shows how highly everybody thinks of him.
Absolutely. Let's see then what the thoughts are over in Seoul. We can now go over to FG, who is joined by Joleon and Lescott.
Hello, Kel. Hello, Nedum. Hello, Steph. Hello, David James. Yeah, it was a mic swap, not a handshake. I heard everything. We'll be having words. We are with Joleon and Shaun Wright-Phillips in our makeover studio. We've just seen the starting 11. I spoke to Rodri earlier on. Let's start with him and how amazing he's been in a Manchester City shirt, Joleon.
Yeah, from when he arrived, there's people talk about he started a bit slow, but I don't think that, to be honest. I think that was a season where it wasn't as custom as we've seen in some recent years, but he's kind of transitioned that role into a different style. Like, everyone was expecting him to be a kind of same version of Fernandinho, but he's transformed it. He plays it equally as well in a different style.
Going on from that, Shaun, when you've got a player like Rodri in your midfield, how much balance does it bring to the team as a whole?
It's not just the balance, it's all the other stuff. I think for an attacker, to have somebody like that behind you is perfect, because you can then be able to risk the ball and take chances and trying to take people on, because you have that solid backup, that foundation. And he covers the ground so well. A lot of the times he doesn't even break a sweat. He just knows how to work the areas to put people in a difficult situation.
He played a lot of games last season, Joleon. When it gets to pre-season again, it feels like we came back really quick after the Champions League and stuff. Do you think he'll feature in as many games as he did last year as well?
Maybe not at the start, but I'm sure when the pressure dials up, he's the go-to guy, isn't he, for Pep? Like Shaun said, he brings the balance, the understanding, transition, he prevents attacks for the opposition. So, again, I think there's going to be more rotation. We can see John Stones playing there from the start of the season rather than just a half a season. Rico can obviously play in there. So, I think, yeah, he'll probably be the main guy in a big game, but at the start of the season, I expect more rotation.
And obviously, let's talk about the front three today. It's Alvarez, Haaland and Grealish. Alvarez and Haaland together. Do you expect Haaland to be obviously through the middle and then Alvarez on the right-hand side, Shaun?
Yeah, you could. It's the only way to really see it, because, Jack's always on the left. Haaland doesn't really go to either of those sides unless he's running in behind. So for me, it's a strong front three and going to cause Atletico Madrid a lot of problems.
Do you think he's in the team for his press as well, Alvarez? Because he's very, very good at his high press, isn't he, Joleon?
Yeah, I think everyone's in there for minutes. I don't necessarily think it's anything more than just getting reps. But yeah, the press, he's equally important out of possession for us. Has a kind of mad understanding. Tevez like to recognise where passes might go and notify a build-up. So yeah, he's in there for multiple reasons, and I'm sure that Atletico players will be thinking about him attackively more than defensively.
When you're a defender and you've got somebody constantly running up,
it's horrible. It's horrible. It's like literally you can't switch off. You're thinking, just take a day off. Like, slow down. I don't want you to pull Dick off was the same. I don't want you to be wanting to tackle me. Just like, let me play and then I'll try and tackle you, kind of thing. But yeah, Alvarez loves it. Like I said, he's literally a hybrid of. It's a big statement. Hybrid of Carlos Tevez and Sergio Aguero.
Well, that's not a bad comparison to have at all, is it? Let's talk about that back four. Kyle Walker's captain again. He's had a great pre-season, as we were talking about the first half he had against Bayern. We were really enjoying it and just enjoying his performance, weren't we, Shaun?
Yeah, we was. Was also enjoying how scared everybody was of him. Like, as soon as they saw him coming like a steam train, they kind of just backed up and just forgot about the ball or tried to kick the ball onto him to get a throw in. So it just shows what he's built in his career. He's got a reputation now that people fear him.
Stones and Diaz again, obviously with Laporte in there as well. Laporte's had a really good pre-season, scored a goal as well. How do you think he's done so far, and how do you think he'll do in the season ahead?
Yeah, again, can play. If he does play, he plays well. I'm anticipating to be a back three of Kyle probably, and Laporte and Diaz with John Stones a bit more advanced. But yeah, listen, there's no one that you would surprise you with any type of performance because they're all quality players. And I go back to when he first joined the club, his impact was huge, similar to what people said Van Dijk's was at Liverpool. So he's been a great player for us, and hopefully that continues.
As you can see, we are in a part-time studio right now, which has just been popped up because outside the weather
studio.
A pop-up studio. I like it because the weather outside is absolutely horrendous. Shaun, let me ask you: have you had a lot of fun playing in the rain before? Is it nice as a footballer to play in the rain? Because obviously, all I think when I see rain is Sunday League back in the day, sliding around, having fun.
Yeah, it was always nice. I think it wouldn't make too much of a difference now because you water the pitches, whereas I think back when I first started, there weren't that many grounds that had the sprinkler system and all the drainage system. So when the rain did hit the pitch, it made the ball move a lot quicker, and it was always fun, yeah.
Of course, the game has been delayed as well, so make sure you stick with Matchday Live, and we will head back to the studio now where you can stick with all the guys in the studio, and I'm sure Nedum's got a couple of jokes for you as well. We'll see you there.
Is FG trying to do this?
Is
this what he's trying to do?
Wow. Listen,
cool.
You can say that while he's over in Seoul as well.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say it here, would he, Nathan?
No, not on this continent, pal.
We'll be going back to Joleon, Shaun and FG in a little bit. Before we speak about a man who signed a contract extension, brand new 4-year contract. Just quickly, obviously, one player that we've not really touched upon is João Cancelo. He has been involved in pre-season. It's an interesting one, David. Obviously, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts? And, is there a way, is he going to be part of City's team? Do we know? Do we think this season coming? Could he play out on the left, as Steph said, possibly? What's your thoughts?
I think if we look at sort of, again, pre-season as a whole and what pre-season is there for, obviously to get fit and at all different levels, I also think it's an opportunity for players to put themselves in a position to go somewhere else. I was saying to Nedum here, I mean, the qualities of Cancelo, everyone knows. I mean, he's quick, he's got all the skills, he can play in multiple positions, likes to shoot a lot. However, I just didn't see him looking like a particularly happy player in that Yokohama game. It was weird. It was just something I didn't sense this kind of I'm going to be here for the rest of the season. So if he's there and helps City be successful, then keep him there. But sometimes players have to be in a position until they're offered or given the opportunity to be in another one. And perhaps Cancelo would be the one who might be offered the opportunity to be somewhere else.
Somewhere else. One player who isn't going to be somewhere else is Nathan Ake. So new 4-year contract. It's a 2-year extension. He's going to be here till 2027. Steph, what are your favourite, aspects of Nathan Ake's game, and what has he done, or what have you seen to see him get this extension? It's so well deserved, as all City fans know.
Not specifically aspects on the pitch. I think we spoke about Rodri and being humble and showing that humility, and I think that's what he does in abundance. I think none of us probably expect him to have the season that he had this season. I think if you go off his first year at City, he didn't really get as many chances, and he'll admit himself it took him a while to get used to how Pep wanted to play. And then he's all of a sudden playing left back, and for me, I think he's just such a good 1v1 defender, and that's probably why he has been playing left back, because in them 1v1 duels against the best players in the league, and having watched him against Saka for Arsenal a few times last season, I think he was by far City's best defender in that responsibility that he had, and really stopped Arsenal's threat. So I'm absolutely buzzing for him. He's such a nice lad, and I think you get what you deserve in football. I think when you do have a great season, then you get a chance to stay at an unbelievable club, and City are good at that. They do reward players when they have good effort and they have a good attitude, and Nathan Ake kind of epitomises that. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Well, we actually had a chance to hear from him with FG. He spoke to him in Seoul after the announcement.
Nathan, congratulations.
Thank
this
you.
is the first ever contract interview we've done on Matchday Lives. How does it feel to be the first one?
It's an honour, No, it feels good.
It's been an amazing journey for you. You joined the club, the first couple of seasons, appearances were not as many. What was the big change in last season?
Difficult to say. I think, confidence, having been already a couple of seasons here now, before last season obviously. I think, just when you get the games, when you get the confidence, everything just flows, and then without you start to learn with the manager, and I think everything just went, it just clicked and it just went upwards, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to the manager giving me those opportunities, and staying patient with me. Even the first season wasn't the best, and keeping the trust in me. So always grateful for that.
Let's talk about that first season. We've seen a lot of players take some time to adapt. Was it similar for you? Did you need a bit of time to adapt into the system, or was it a massive change from coming from Bournemouth?
It was a massive change in terms of expectations, size of the club. But I think the first couple of games actually went okay. I started, it went okay, but then a few injuries came with that. I think with injuries, always the confidence goes down a little bit naturally. Coming back in the team, you need a little bit of rhythm, bit of time, and then from then it went just up and down, up and down, up and down. And I think halfway the season I had a bigger one. It took me a few months to come back. And I think from then, I just lost a lot of confidence. Every time I played, I tried to overshow myself. So I got the opportunity. I wanted to show the manager, I'm ready, I want to play, and the fans and everyone. And then you start to do things you don't normally do. You start to dive in. You start to go for tackles you normally don't go for. And this kind of thing started to happen. And it just went downwards from then, basically. But the first season was out of the way then. And I think the second season you come in with a different mentality. Okay, the first season's out of the way, it's all done, just go again, focus again. You know everything now, you know the club, you know the people. And I think from there it just naturally goes better.
We were watching you against Bayern Munich, pitch side with Joleon and Lescott, and the one thing he said about you, and we all agreed, was you literally make it look so simple and do the simple things quickly and easily. Is that how your game's adapted? Because last season Pep's team is known for attack, but the reason we probably went on to be so successful was because of the defence, and you were a massive part of it.
Thank you. I think defending is my main strength anyway. But the manager also, even though it's more on the ball and on the ball stuff I've learned, and the defensive instincts I have naturally, I think anyway, he still gave me a lot of tips on how to stay calm in the box, and don't overshow yourself in certain situations. And I think the natural defenders we have anyway, with Ruben, with John, with Manu, with Walks, they're all players who love to defend, and I think we have this unity now of actually enjoying defending. When someone makes a tackle, when I made tracks back in the last game, he made an unbelievable tackle, everyone is up and applauding him, and I think that's what we created this season, a little bit more than maybe the last few seasons.
Congratulations to Nathan Ake, thoroughly deserved, and I know City fans will be buzzing all around the world. That's part one of an interview. Part two of that you can watch on mancity.com. Nathan, just looking at his stats as well. So he's had 3 seasons here now. First season he played 13 times, 11 starts. Second season 27 apps, 19 starts, and then 41 appearances with 33 starts. So it just goes to show that kind of growth, and obviously how much now Pep relies on him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's obviously nice to have 3 seasons and 6 trophies. That'll keep you coming back for some more. But yeah, last season I think the turning point for me was the first derby game, the 6-3, and he started with Ake and Akanji at centre back, and on the bench you had Laporte and Diaz, and that's a big vote of confidence by Pep in what is such a big game for for everyone associated with the football club, and they were excellent in that game. And then from there the season progressed, and Ake, after Cancelo left, people said, the sky's falling, everything's going wrong, they're not going to be able to survive. But they were better in that second half of the season with him in there, to a point where when he went down injured at some point, people started to panic. How will we replace Nathan Ake? Which is not something you thought that would have been said, say, 2 seasons prior. So yeah, he's been exceptional. He's been so consistent. He's reliable. He's chipped in with a few goals as well. And yeah, he's a big part of why City had the most historic season in their history.
Do you think he's better, David, left-sided centre-half or at left-back?
That's a good question, that, because as always, the Man City, the defending part is hardly ever called upon, is it? It's how they rotate, and I think you were saying before when he was dealing with Saka, you know, he can deal with offensive players in front of him. So if it's centre-half, I don't think he has I wouldn't put him in a favoured position. If you're going to go to the back four, then maybe if you've got a Kanji in there, but then Kanji can do both, can't he? Yeah, he kind of spoilt.
I don't. To be honest, with him, I don't perceive him as a left back. I perceive him being the left side of a three. You know, for the way that he plays it, because I think most people, if they're looking at say fullbacks as such, they'd be bombing forward. But I don't think he's really someone that'll be bombing forward. I think his main priority would be the defensive side of things.
Yes.
And when City are in attack, it would tend to be him plus two others who are back there. And in transition, yes, someone might come and attack you, and he might end up drifting more towards that left side. But I think he's doing half the job of a left back. That's why I don't think it's a full sort of like left back role, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay.
Because he's there. You know, he's there. He's defending, and he's not having to go forward. So as I say, I wouldn't personally perceive it as being like a clear left back role, because again, it's lopsided on the right side. In fact, no, I just don't think he's a left back.
It's an amalgamation.
Yeah, I just think it's class. You know, that's basically all these roles just lead to this point where I just think he's brilliant.
Yeah, and I'll echo those thoughts.
Yeah, I think he's brilliant. Yeah.
Now, listen, if you want to get involved with the show, you know how to do it. Or the all-important WhatsApp number is available on your screens. And if you've got any maybe comments on what we're talking about, maybe you've got some questions for our guests, that's how you can get involved in the show. And remember, when we have a new kickoff time, I'll be able to bring you that. It has been delayed for rain. But we think it could be around 12:30. So to watch the game, you can watch that on City Plus Recast or Coupang Play if you're in Korea. Now we are taking on Atletico Madrid, and I can bring you their starting 11 now. It looks like this. We have Jan Oblak in net. Then we have Azpilicueta, Soyuncu, De Paul, Griezmann, Seoul, Memphis Depay, Angel Correa, Samuel Lino, and Thomas Lemar. Okay, captain as well. Steph, big names. That seems pretty strong to me from Atletico.
Yeah, pretty strong, to be honest. I think that's what pre-season is, to try and figure out what your strongest team is. And like you said, there's some big names in there, the likes of Griezmann, obviously Azpilicueta, who we know from Chelsea, has gone there, signed this season. So I was expecting a tough game, but when you read that team sheet, it's going to be probably even a bit tougher.
I mean, for Pep, though, and the players, though, as well, I guess that's kind of it's the perfect last game of a pre-season tour before you have a Community Shield against Arsenal.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think the only way you could potentially make it hard is play this game at the Metropolitano, you know, add another 40,000-50,000 the Atletico fans, so adds a bit of spice to things. But Atletico are a very good side. You know, they're in the Champions League pretty much every single season. They're contending for the Liga title for 2/3 of a season annually, it feels like. So yeah, they're a good team. They've got the defensive side of things, they've got the aggression, but they also have some really good footballers as well. You know, you're talking about Koke's, Saul's, Griezmann's, you know, to name but three. They do move the ball around. I think there's this idea that all they do is kick people, but I promise you, some of those guys, like, they play some fantastic football. And yeah, it's a great game to theoretically close, but I'm sure they'll try and find a way to find another little match before that, perhaps.
Just looking at the previous games in pre-season, Cade League Stars, they actually beat them 3-2. There were goals from Lemar and Carlos Martin, but they did lose 3-2. So do you think maybe then, knowing Simeone, he'll be wanting
Diego out.
Well, yeah.
But he'll be wanting to get a win to finish their pre-season, I guess.
Yeah, there was an own goal, I think, for K League. Might have been the first goal. They had massive changes at half-time. So in typical pre-season fashion, it's difficult to read a game given there were so many changes. So I don't think there'll be two. And I think that's the only game they've had in pre-season.
Did they start later then?
Sorry?
Did they start later?
Yeah, it was last week, whatever.
No, as in when the league starts, yeah.
No, we're here to focus on Man City.
Sorry, yeah, of course, my bad.
What I'm interested in is Soyuncu. It's a weird one because he couldn't, for whatever reason, couldn't make it into the Leicester side that got relegated last season, then goes to, as Nedum says, a side that are regularly in the Champions League. We know that he can have a physical side to him, which I think will be interesting. But if I'm a Man City player playing against, I'm thinking I'm playing against.
I've seen you somewhere before, pal.
Yeah, I mean the guy that didn't play in the team that went down. So I mean, for Simeone, as you say, he's the typical type of play that you would associate with Atletico Madrid, unless you listen to Nedum, who say they can play a bit better than that. Yeah. But it's everything, as we're saying. This is what you want from pre-season. You know, Azpilicueta. There are so many subplots in this. Depay. You know, all these guys are going to go, it might be pre-season, but you're Man City and you're the team that I've spent part of my career at least trying to, and on some unfortunate occasions, actually beating Azpilicueta.
And I mean, we look at their defensive side of the game, which I mentioned in a second, but going forward, Steph, as well. I mean, even just looking at, you know, you've got, as you say, Griezmann, Lamar, Morata's over there as well. They have got a lot of threat going forward, and as much as we talk about defensive side of the game, their attacking prowess is just as good if they want it to be.
Yeah, and they've shown that a lot in La Liga and in the Champions League. I think you name them 3 players and they've got a lot of experience at the top level, and they have qualities that everybody would probably love to see in the Premier League in terms of going forward, finding passes, assisting and scoring, and each of them have got all different qualities. And you speak about Morata, how much experience has he had, and he necessarily might not start, but even Griezmann, he's been spoken about so much over the last few seasons about how many clubs want him, and I think it's a great game for City. I think in terms of similar to Arsenal, in terms of the type of technical players that they have, looking forward to the Community Shield. And as players, you want this pre-season, you want it to be a little bit more physical, because you see personally where you're at, and for Pep it just shows where the team's at after 2 games previously.
Yes. Another player as well we've really not mentioned much, but he's not in the squad at all, because I think he has upset Simeone a little bit, is João Felix.
Oh, is it?
There was an interview given where in recent days with Fabrizio Romano, where he says that he'd love to play for Barca and that has been his dream since a kid, which did not go down well with Simeone.
Oh, wow. I need to see a clip of that. Is Fabrizio stitching him up, or has he made a statement at the start of the thing? You know, Fabrizio, before we begin, I would love to play for Barcelona. Can you imagine? Yeah, that's not ideal. That's not going to get you much love from Simeone. And to be fair, as far as that goes, Simeone's he's the heartbeat of that football club, isn't it? You think about Lescott, you think of Simeone. So I think he's going to be defended by pretty much all the fans and all that. So it's probably for his own good that he's not part of that group at this moment in time. Yeah.
We just mentioned the attacking side of it, and as Steph said there, David, it's a great test for the players individually. But do you think as well, just looking ahead to the season, because they are quite defensive and solid and rigid, we know that's how a lot of teams approach Manchester City, particularly when they come to the Etihad. So I guess that's just good for us to start getting used to those 2 banks of 5 we're used to seeing sometimes.
Yeah, it's when you're plotting. I don't know when City would have booked these matches in for pre-season, because you know, when we were playing, perhaps you kind of go into pre-season in Japan and Korea and you're going to play these teams, you think they booked it the week before. Whereas quite often it's like 18 months before, do you know what I mean, or whatever. So it's an interesting opposition, given that they're playing Arsenal in the Community Shield first game, and whether or not, because as soon as that lineup came out, we started talking about back 4, and then there was a reference to Arsenal last season. 2 games against Arsenal were completely different ways for City to play.
Yes.
So this would not be necessarily the greatest warm-up game for Arsenal, but as you said, it will be a great warm-up for a lot of like Brentford, for example, where you're going to have a stubborn back 8.
You know what, though? That team that you read out from Atletico, I didn't hear enough names in there that would be the same as like a Brentford, whereby they'll be fully on the back foot. Because how sort of defensively, tactically aware is a Depay, is a Lamar, is a Griezmann, is a Seoul, essentially? Because they're more... they'll do a job, but it's not their best job, if you know what I mean. Whereas there are other teams whereby you can see by the faces and the names that they're going to be people who want to take a step back and try and hit you on the break. But the link-up play between, like, say, Lamar, Depay, Griezmann and stuff will be as good as anywhere we're going to see in Europe, and that's what they want to do.
I wasn't saying they're as good as Brentford.
Well, yeah, of course, that's what they want to do.
On the flip side, Brentford aren't as good as them. But I just think that the way that they play generally, and I think everyone will appreciate it, that they can defend.
Yeah.
Depay maybe not as much as a couple of players, but Griezmann can do his defensive duties.
Yeah.
And like you said there, Kel, yes, it will be a test, because even with Arsenal, even though there's a lot different, Arsenal still can defend. and then, as you say, do all the link-up play that can cause them a threat on the other end of the table.
Yeah, Steph got asked this as well. Since you're the only person here that's actually still playing.
Trying to play, guys.
And you're playing for City, you're a team that has tons of possession. You tend to come up against teams who will take a step back. Like, when you've got the ball at the back there, what's key to breaking down a team like that? Do you know where they are essentially trying to frustrate you? Because when I was playing, I always used to find, sometimes you have the ball and you feel like you're in control, but you're not, especially the more touches that you have as a player at the back there. Do you know what I mean?
It was quite interesting because I watched France v Jamaica the other day in the Women's World Cup.
Go on, Jamaica.
Jamaica did a great job with France, but I think France were poor because Jamaica let the back four have the ball. And I think as a centre-half, it makes it so hard because you're then having to make so many more decisions, whereas if someone's coming and pressing you, your decision's kind of made. You're either going to play in your midfield or you're going to start again and go back with your goalkeeper. And I think it is interesting with the teams that do bank up because as a defender, you probably are still so far away from your goal, but your last line defence, apart from a goalkeeper, even if you're on the halfway line, that transition is absolutely massive. And I think first and foremost, you've got to have movement in front of you and you've got to try and let players kind of make things happen so that decision becomes a little bit easier. And you've got to move the ball quick because ultimately they want you to kind of just hold the ball so they don't have to move shape. But if you have movement, you have players with good quality on the ball and you have tempo, it does make it that little bit harder and you've got to try and entice someone out as well. But yeah, sometimes you feel as though you're in control because there's no one there, but actually you probably are the most vulnerable because your next decision is going to trigger something.
Yeah, and is it that bit partly then as why changing the John Stones role a little bit as well kind of leans into that a little bit?
Yeah, because I think it then kind of makes, as an opposition, it makes you think, well, who's going to pick John Stones up, for example? Like, who's going to now be in his role because we've overloaded midfield? So is it going to be a midfielder? Are you going to drop your forward back in to try and cover that pass? And I think City played Southampton away and John Stones was coming from a right-back position. And Southampton dealt with it really, really well because literally they just forced City outside and City had no width. So then that's when John Stones started to go from a central position. And when the ball was on the opposite side, he'd start to come in. And it's like, as an opposition, how do you cope with that? Because City have so many options. But the thing with City is technically they're absolutely unbelievable. So they always keep the ball. But not just because of how gifted they are, but the decisions that they do make and how players actually move to get on the ball. And it does help as a centre-half that if you have them people that do want the ball, it makes your decision a lot easier.
And I guess as well then, which I just hear from you guys all the time, that's also down to the time and the commitment in training. It doesn't just happen that is drilled in over years almost.
Yeah, if you watch a team like just on a Saturday, you just assume that's when everything happens. This is when they're practicing now. Everything just goes and happens. But like the Monday through Friday, if they're lucky enough to play just one game a week, like that's when they put in the work. That's when they start to build those relationships. That's when they start to understand, like, well, this is how we're going to deal with this scenario together. The ball goes back to the goalkeeper. Everybody's moving to the right spot. It's not just one person. No, and it's if you're really nerdy with it, it's incredible to watch. If you're just casually trying to watch it, it looks boring. But when you know and when you've played, you know how hard it is to get everybody to be doing something in unison. Then that's when I think you have to give a ton of credit to say the stuff that they do because it is great. And as Steph was saying, you're constantly asking, well, should I go to press this person or that person? Should I go here? Should I go there? And whatever plan you have in play, at the end of the day, you still just don't know because all of them are working together to try and make it as hard for you as possible.
Yeah, it's one cohesive unit. You see? Sorry, go on, David.
I was going to say, I'm glad you said that because I was thinking as you were talking, especially last season, watching so many City games, there were times where you think, hang on, you've just won a game 6-0. Why don't you go and win 6-0 again? But you don't have to win 6-0. And you see the play come up, you're waiting for someone, and it's almost like, no, it's not set up right. We'll go back, we'll go. No. Bang, bang. It happens once in the game. They win 1-0, but quite often away at home, in London, whatever. You get that 1-0 win, it's 3 points, job's done.
Yeah.
The team get on the bus or get on the plane, it's like, yes, we've got another 3 points. The fans might be going, why wasn't it 6-0?
Go direct.
Yeah. Come on. But it might even be the 85th minute, whatever. It's just, it is beautiful to watch if you want to watch it that way.
Yeah.
Well, I'm lucky because I get to watch it with you guys. So there we go. And that's why we have the best insight here on Matchday Live. Right, like slight pause from us in the studio because we can now go to our official weatherman who is in Seoul in South Korea. FG, can you bring us a little weather update? How's it looking over there, mate?
Hello from inside the Seoul World Cup Stadium. Now, we wanted to come outside and show you the state of play as it stands. It is raining. It feels a bit like Manchester. I've got a lovely little poncho which has a Manchester City sticker on, you know, for a bit of branding. We are waiting to see whether the game will go ahead or what is happening. We've had a pitch inspection. There was a delay. It is very, very wet out there. I don't know if you can see the rain. It feels like we're at home. Fingers crossed for everybody watching on City Plus, on Recast, that there will be a game for you guys. But for now, we'll head back to the studio and keep you updated where we can.
Lovely, FG. Thank you very much. I mean, there we go. That should be his player card, shouldn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
We can give out to fans for
Best
him to
to see
sign.
him. Best to see him there.
You can bring that outfit back to Manchester. He'll fit right in. Right, as I say, 12:30 we think is going to be the new kickoff time. I'll keep you updated if anything does change on that. Just a slight pause away from our first team. Wanted to look at our academy and in particular our under-23s. We had a brilliant doc go out called 3 in 3, which was looking at them making history, a historic moment when they won their third EDS crown for a third year in a row. We can take a look at this little clip.
Oh, go on, don't break it, boy. 3 in a row. Had a roll, Jason. Okay, I'll go last. Okay, it's for me. Okay, this is one for me. Yeah, okay. The winning and the end result is great. I would say, like on a personal level, Carlos, this style of play is amazing. So congratulations. I'm very, very proud of it. Very, very proud. And what's next? Party. Hey, Muna. But he goes back. Congratulations. Yo, bump it up. You gotta bump it up. Don't you know, bump it up. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
We've won the league. Obviously, they were the expectation, but yeah, it's been a great season. I've really enjoyed it.
Yes.
Every member of the team, even the injured ones, the ones just coming back. I've had a great season. I really enjoyed it, and nothing better than to win it, is it? You know what I mean?
You know, everyone's quite young, one of the youngest teams in the league. For everyone being young and being able to do what they did, yeah, it's great, considering it's the first time.
The thing that makes it so unique is that each year there's 5, 6, 7 new players who come in. So the 4 or 5 from the previous year join with 5 or 6 new players who've been promoted from the under-18s, and yet they've still maintained that winning formula. So they're still doing the things that will make them hopefully one day graduate to the first team squads. And to do it for 3 years in a row says so much, not just about the players who are in the EDS for that season that then win it, but it also says that the under-18s, the under-16s, the under-15s, that progression ladder is working successfully.
Yeah, you just got to give credit to the staff, because without them, I know everyone says this, but without them we wouldn't have been in the position to do it.
So you can watch 3 in 3 there, as you saw on City Plus. Parts 1 and 2 are out, part 3 still to come. Nedum, you were actually featured in part 2 with our unbelievable winger, Carlos Borges. I mean, tell us about him and also kind of, yeah, how was that? Because what an unbelievable season from him.
Yeah, he's very, very good. Firstly, he's very, very good at football. Secondly, a really nice kid as well. You know, getting a chance to speak with him, interview him, and you know, get beaten by him at table tennis was sorry, that's a spoiler. But yeah, but no, he was good. He's got a real desire to win, but a really humble kid as well. You know, spending some time with him, you could see like the kids and just players at this football club are just not ahead of themselves. You know, just lots of good people everywhere. So I enjoy getting a feel for what it's like being in a sort of youth team now. You know, the expectations, what it's like when you go and train with this first team. Because respectfully, the first team today is a bit different to what it was 20 years ago when I was first coming through, especially with the level of
thanks.
It's just the level of expectation, not talent, just expectation. So that was awesome. don't know if it's out yet, but I spoke with Shay Charles as well. Okay. That was good. And if you hear my voice on there, well, it's because I do voiceover work now.
There we go.
You've been busy, haven't you?
I wouldn't say busy.
He's diversifying.
I would not. No, it's all City related. All for the brand.
Podcast, voiceovers, books.
But it was really good. I think the idea of doing the series like this about this academy side was really interesting, and getting a chance to speak with the players and the footage that they've got there. It's actually really exciting, because we see the all or nothing type things with first teams, but there's a lot of interesting stuff happening at academy level as well. So I recommend you download it, get it, watch it, make sure you turn the sound up because it's great voiceover work. And then, just enjoy the process.
He knows what he's doing. But listen, why don't we whet the appetite even more, because we can now take a look at some of your interview with that man, Carlos Borges. What a season he had.
So, Carlos, how many goals you got?
Well, in total in the league.
Listen, whatever you need to say. If you're struggling to remember, it means it's a lot.
Manchester City back in front. And it's the league top scorer, Carlos Borges.
In the league, I think it's 15 or 16.
Okay.
Altogether, it's probably like 20 something.
And that's playing which position?
Left wing.
How's that a thing? Like, how are you doing that?
It's down to my teammates, and I guess...
See, this is it. That's the right answer. It's a trick question.
Nah. It's down to the teammates.
No, that's good. Yeah. And how many years you say you've been at City now?
It's going to be 9.
9?
Yeah.
What made you come over? Especially for someone so young, and was it something you're looking forward to? Because I have a feeling that maybe it wasn't, especially at that sort of age.
Yeah, no, it wasn't my decision. My parents wanted to come here to find new jobs, because I used to play for Sporting at the time.
Yeah.
And I just got into the academy at the time, and I was enjoying myself. I was winning trophies. I was settling in, and then I don't know where he had to come, so I didn't really have a choice.
You didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
So when would you say you started to sort of feel as if you had the potential to be in the position that you're at now?
To be honest, I never thought about it that way. I think, for me, I think about step by step.
Yeah.
And I just take it out how it goes, and for me to be in this position is a privilege, and I just have to keep working hard.
So you've trained with the first team quite a few times, played with the first team. How many times?
I only played once against Girona.
And how did that feel?
Nah, I was a top. I can't lie, I was a bit.
You're excited, yeah? Were you nervous? Nervous, okay.
When I came on, but then within 5-10 minutes I got into the game and nerves calmed down.
What were you nervous about?
I don't know, just first team with the players. It's just, I think it was that. But I think if it was to happen again, I think it could be calmer.
With City, they've obviously got some hugely experienced players, but they do have some youngsters making a huge impact as well. They're not too much older than you. You'd same age as Rico?
Yeah.
And, people like Phil as well, Cole Palmer's and the like, they're not that much older than you.
Yeah.
Do you sort of look to them for advice, or is it more a case of you just look to anyone for advice?
I do a bit of both, because I think you learn from both. So when I go with the first team to train, sometimes I speak to, for example, Kyle Walker, Bernardo, and Rico. I speak to him almost every day, and he tells me how good is it, the feeling, the experience, and he's loving it at the moment. So yeah.
What was it first like when you went to train with the first team? Were you nervous then, or was it something which was exciting?
No, it was just exciting. I wasn't nervous at the time. Fernandinho was there.
Yeah, so, the guy,
yeah, he gave me advice. He was a proper leader, true leader, and it helped because he obviously spoke Portuguese.
Did he give you advice in Portuguese or English?
Yeah, Portuguese.
There's one other thing that's left to do now, because I heard you are fantastic at table tennis. Like, fantastic is the word. Is that true?
No, I'll say decent. I'm decent.
I'm no good, so just know that if you lose a point against me, that's a win for me.
Yes, welcome back to Seoul. That was a great interview there with Nedum and with Carlos Borges. You can watch that on City Plus and Recast. If you haven't watched it, it gives a really, really good insight into our academy. Let's talk about the Atletico team. We've just seen it. Before starting, we'll talk about their first friendly they had. They lost to the K-League 11, Nedum. Stuff like that.
Nedum or Joleon?
I just call you Nedum.
Yeah,
Nedum's on my mind because of the documentary. That's why. Joleon. So you look really.
Is this live? It's live.
It's live.
God,
Okay.
Nedum.
So oh, you know what? It's been a long talk. K-League 11. It was all about fitness, though, isn't it? Right?
Oh yeah. Listen, the results are not that important at this stage of the season. You can't be looking to be immaculate and perfect performances after one game, regardless of who you're playing. So yeah. listen, they'll just be looking to shake quabbers. I'm sure it's probably some of the players' first game as well. Regardless, I doubt it's the same team that played or lost to the K-League 11. So there'll be fresh faces and new players like Asla Luqueta, Suwon Chua. So I'm sure they'll just be wanting to test themselves against some of the best players in the world.
Let's talk about Asla Luqueta. Shaun, what an absolute legend he was. Played really a long time at Chelsea as well. He's come here, fresh start. I mean, it should be a good move for him, right?
Yeah, I think it will be a good move for him. I think you saw him at Chelsea. He was a leader. He pretty much consistently played well his whole career there, and took them to some major trophies. And I just think at that time last season, the Premier League just seemed a bit too much for him. So he made a decision to obviously move back to play in Spain. And I think the club will suit him because it's quite an aggressive team as well, and it's pretty similar to how he plays. He likes to be in people's faces. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in this game.
And he'll be massive as well, like touching on what Shaun just said, he'll be massive for the dressing room because of how he is, that leadership, that characteristic. You don't lose that as a player, do you? Right? No,
you gain that as your career goes on, and the experiences he's got in every competition. Like Shaun said, he's one of the most consistent performers the Premier League's seen, and I'm sure the intensity of training that he's going into obviously would have increased. But I'm just think his time at Chelsea, it was unfortunate that there was a transition, and he probably was a victim of that. But in terms of his quality, I don't think anyone's ever going to question his contribution to Chelsea and the Premier League.
Absolutely not. And another player who's relatively new here is Seoul, who used to play for Leicester. We saw a lot of him in the Premier League. There was a moment in the Premier League where he's absolutely shining, wasn't it, Joleon?
Yeah, again, that was probably one of the surprising signings I've seen, because again, he's probably had an inconsistent run of form longer than he had a consistent run of form. I think he had a season, like you said, but after that he's struggled a little bit, and to get a move like this, obviously it helps in the greatest respect when Leicester go down. It makes it easier for players to leave, whatever, but he can produce great moments and be a tough opponent to play against, so I'm sure he'll be up for the challenge today.
There's another man I want to touch on as well, Shaun, and that's Jan Oblak. He seems to be a fixture in Atletico side all the time. He's starting again today. He's getting ready for another season with them. He's a great goalkeeper, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he's been fantastic. You've seen him over the years, the stops and saves he's made, and not just that, how good he is at commanding his own box. They defend deeply, so sometimes there is a lot of corners coming in, and he doesn't shy away from coming to collect those moments. And you don't stay in goal that long for a team like Atletico Madrid if you ain't doing all the right things.
A game like this, Joleon, for Atletico, usually when it's a competitive fixture, you know how Atletico are going to be. They're going to be everyone behind the ball. They're going to try and hit you on the counter, etc. Do you think they'll implement that sort of game plan and that style of play in a friendly like this as well?
Yeah, I think they may play with a little bit more freedom and a bit more understanding from the manager due to it being the second game. But in terms of how they'll set up, they'll just configure into that formation and that setup, because that's the nature of Atletico. The players he's recruited are used to playing in a similar style, having to defend, compact, hard to break down. But listen, this will be a feisty game. I know it says friendly, but I'm sure when the whistle goes, it won't be that friendly.
It should be a very, very good game. Now, we asked you at pitch side for your predictions yesterday. I'm going to give you a chance to potentially change them if you want, because you both said draw, Joleon.
No, I'm going to stick with the draw.
You're going to stick with the draw?
The conditions don't play well into our hands, to be honest. We want to move the ball quick, and it's ridiculously wet out there, so I'll give them the benefit of that and say draw.
And Shaun, what about you? You're going to stick with the draw as well?
Yes, most definitely sticking with the draw, and it has nothing to do with the weather conditions. I just feel like this game is going to be a draw today.
Well, I hope you're both wrong. I hope it's a City win. We are going to head back to the studio where actually the real Nedum Onuoha is.
Thank you so much, FG. Thanks, Joleon, and thanks, Shaun, Wright-Phillips, and thank you to you for joining us and also getting in some brilliant questions on WhatsApp. So I'm going to begin with this one from Keeley, who says, who has shocked you most this pre-season in a good way, and why? Maybe.
Shocked me?
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Nedum has been shocked.
Keeley shocked you with that question.
Yes, yeah.
Nedum doing voiceovers.
Yeah. That's pretty shocking, to be fair. Yeah, you're right. I don't know. I wouldn't say necessarily it's a shock, but James McAtee scored the other day, didn't he?
Yes.
Hang on a minute.
Yeah, it's not. Well, do you know what? Because I know him.
Yeah.
And at the start of last season, when he was at Sheffield, I used to give him grief about not scoring. So I'll say it's a shock to see him. I got a notification saying there's a goal at Man City. I wonder who it is, and it says James McAtee, and he spat my tea outside. James McAtee scored a goal for City. So yeah, I'd say that's the biggest shocking moment for me so far, but hopefully
well played.
We'll have more to come.
What about you, David?
Oscar Bob.
Oscar Bob, nice.
Yeah, and shock, I don't know. I don't know anything about him, to be fair. So when he came on in that Yokohama game, what I loved was the fact that he looked like he'd played for City for, I'm not going to say years because he's only 20 years old, but he'd been in the system and understood the system and did what he needed to do. I think he set up Cancelo for the assist for Haaland, and it just, everything flowed. And he looked like he could play in that position at any time that Pep needs him to play in that position. And again, going back loosely to what pre-season's about, Pep being able to say, oh, Oscar Bob, McAtee, you know, how are they going to fit in, or can they fit in? Cancelo, do I need to keep them in the squad because I can see there's an improvement? When you've got a 20-year-old who's been at the club for years, just getting into the side, doing the right things at the right time.
Yeah.
Rico Lewis was mentioned there in Nedum's interview. You know, this is a player last season, I think everyone said when he came in at pre-season, it's like youngsters given a chance. Well, all of a sudden, he's playing the Premier League and the Champions League and being part of a successful City side. So I was shocked in a positive way on how Oscar Bob just looked like a City player.
I said yesterday on the show as well, which I loved, and it probably you alluded to kind of from you and also in that doc, is the mentality of these players. I mean, Oscar Bob's interview was in basically saying, I didn't think I played very well at all, and I was like, I think you did all right, mate. James McAtee was saying, I got the goal, but I didn't influence the game like I wanted to. It goes to show where their mindset is, and I guess it's, for City fans, that's kind of what you want to be hearing. It's amazing. To be so young as well, Steph.
Yeah, and you know what, I think, obviously we've all went into first teams, and sometimes it's because you maybe feel that little bit uncomfortable. It's a new environment, you're playing against better players, you're playing with better players, and even though you are probably performing at the level that Pep wants him to be at, he's probably thinking, okay, I'm a bit nervous, I'm a bit anxious, and he's probably not really experienced them feelings for a long time as a young player. But I think we speak about Oscar Bob and watching him a lot last season and how he trains. He's the ultimate professional, and he really wants to do well for this football club, which is great for normally a lot of young players want to get in, not even need the first team, they want to go out straight away and go and play first team football, and sometimes it's not as easy as that to do that. But the likes of Rico Lewis, I think I was going to mention Rico Lewis in terms of his performances. I think he's growing every time he pulls on a City shirt. Yeah. He really kind of commands, and even though he's quite small in stature, he's so aggressive and he's just intelligent with the football, which is kind of the ideal that Pep wants.
I know this was going to be one of these obvious questions. I think we can bring up some clips, but he makes it look effortless. But what he's actually doing, Steph, in the role he's playing, I mean, if you remember as well, Pep saying comments that, you know, there's parts of his game that no other City defenders can play at. He almost taught some of your John Stones and Kyle Walker how to play this role. It's not easy what he's doing at all.
No, he makes it look easy, that's for certain, but I think he's just so good at reading the player, and he just seems to be that one step ahead of anybody. I mean, you would never really expect him to be cutting the ball back there in the position that he does play, but he just picks up some great positions and he's not afraid to take the ball. I think that's for me, it just shows so much confidence, and even if he isn't going forward, he's always covering for someone, and look, like there, he's just picking up second balls where really you would be thinking he'd be dying to get forward. But I mean, he's probably been unlucky to not start as many games as he did last year, but that's the competition that we have, and to be a young player in this side, he's going to be an absolutely unbelievable player in the future.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Rico Lewis there, can't wait to see more of him. I'm going to ask you this one, Nathan, because I know chatting to some City fans, this has been something that a few of us have spoken about a little bit, is saying, do you think we've strengthened enough to make a strong start to the new season? I am nervous we're missing something, and that this is a kind of conversation that is rippling around City fans at the moment.
It's okay, so where to address that? Let's go specifically, and I'm going to talk to you now. You now represent all the City fans in the world.
All of them.
All of them. Every single one.
Well, I'm glad you finally said it.
Yeah, I get it now. What's missing?
Obviously.
What's missing? Which positions?
Well, I think a winger, possibly.
Okay.
Mahrez.
Someone to replace Mahrez?
Yeah.
To start, or to replace Mahrez, who wasn't starting the last part of the season?
Well, I'd like to think any player we're signing is coming in to start, yeah.
So that would be starting instead of who, Bernardo or Phil Foden?
Well, I think Foden's going to play more centrally this year.
So instead of a Bernardo then?
I think Bernardo...
So this is Cel Spellman saying he wants someone to come in to start ahead of Bernardo. Is that right? Is that correct in terms of what I'm hearing?
Well, no, okay, maybe right. Maybe not start ahead, but as in to give us that strength in depth. It does feel like if... I don't know, all right, you've lost Gundogan, that's a big name, yeah. Big influence in the changing room.
Yeah.
Mahrez has gone.
Yeah.
There's noise of maybe a potential few other players. Hopefully he won't, but there's even news of Kyle Walker. Bar Kovacic, I take that squad though and look at it now and go, I do get the argument. I'm not saying the way is a little bit weaker.
Yeah, I'm with you, but I think some of the anxiety comes because you've seen other teams around strengthen them.
Fair.
You know what I mean? So it sort of gives you that sense of anxiety, like, well, maybe we need something, but it has to be the right thing. It has to be the right thing in the right moment. And you don't want someone to come in that's going to upset the balance that already exists at the football club. I think in Gundogan and Mahrez, you have two players who've been there for a long time. They understand the feel of it, the fabric of it, and you want to bring someone in, essentially from the outside. But you could bring in a star, bring in someone that is desperate to start, but how will they feel when they're not starting every game?
Yes.
Maybe when they're not starting one in three or whatever. And how do you feel when the person that's starting ahead of you, someone like Bernardo Silva, who never misses games anyway? You know what I mean? So it's about the right business at the right time. And yes, there is scope to potentially bring in one more, but we've already said today, this feels like as stronger a team as they could pick barring one or two. But then there's still 3 or 4 behind that already on the bench. So you're bringing in to add depth. But then when depth comes in, you're also still quite comfortable saying, I still want this guy to play 10, 20 games in a row.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I don't have the same level of anxiety. I see people throwing the money around. But I think whoever they bring in, I think they'll be just fine. And thankfully, the season doesn't start. Well, the window doesn't close for another 4 weeks. So,
which Pep has said as well. Thank you.
Don't panic.
Appreciate
That's right, mate.
Can I just interject there? Because what I find interesting about last season, and I think I'm right because I'm sure I'm right.
Okay.
Pep did not play 2 consecutive same starting lineups in the Premier League. Every game there was a change or more. Very rarely lots of changes, but there was never consecutive. There might have been on one occasion right at the end of the whatever. So you come to Man City knowing that you're not going to start every week. He played less players than anyone else in the Premier League, which is ironic because everyone was kind of changed at some point. So you have to bring in players who are prepared to be, I want to say, it's not even sacrifice, is it? Sharing the load.
Yes.
And theoretically, you end up buying someone who, as you said, who's going to replace Bernardo Silva and start every week.
Crazy.
Who's also going to be prepared not to be playing every week. And it kind of goes against the model of the best player. The best player is the one who plays every week.
Is that why he's brought in a lot of young players for this pre-season? Because, say, you look at Cole Palmer, who could probably play on that right-hand side, and he was one of the players that didn't feature as much, but now he probably goes up the ranks now. We had a great Euros with England, and I think now you are probably thinking Phil Foden's maybe going to play on the right, or Bernardo Silva will play on the right, and it's like, OK, then he's the next one in line, but he's got another year experience. I don't know, I kind of see it like that. I think it's hard because you look at Cancelo and you're thinking you can't keep him. He's not happy being that one that's on the bench and he's not playing. So it's like, is that good for the team? And it hasn't been good for the team. That's why he went on loan to Bayern Munich. So I do probably agree with you, Nedum. I think it's like, OK, we have such good quality players, but those players that were probably really fringe players have probably got that more experience to kind of do the role of a sub, which is essentially what they're going to be.
There is another point, going back half an hour ago when you made the point about John Stones' positioning and me saying people understanding now, having played against it, that Pep will have another plan. I think Kovacic coming into the City side is something that City haven't had before, because the way that Kovacic plays is unlike anyone else, in my opinion. You know, he can pick balls up, break lines with the ball. Yes, Kevin De Bruyne does it, but he doesn't do it from any kind of defensive position. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's already a plan for Pep to play the game differently, and therefore even Phil Foden or as Mahrez might not have fitted in. One of my, I wouldn't say criticisms, observations of Mahrez was you knew where he was going to be 90% of the time on the field when he was playing, and that was out there on the right. Didn't move a lot, and you're talking again about this slow build-up. If people are stationary, it's very difficult to get the ball through. Take him out, Phil Foden, Silva, whatever, you get that bit more mobility. I think Pep's got a different plan.
Yeah, interesting.
And therefore, it might not be. Silva might be playing right back. Who knows? He's tried left back.
He's done everywhere else. This question came in from Kayla, which I think is lovely. I wanted to ask you all, but I'm gonna first put it to you, Steph, because I know actually you would actually be an answer to a lot of, I think, young people out there, which is what/who made you interested in football? And obviously now we know how much the women's game has come on, but you were obviously there right at the start when it really kind of was booming. But so for you, who was that inspiration?
A lot of it was my family, because I come from a big family who absolutely love football, and coming from the northeast, it's literally football mad. So I don't think I had a choice, to be honest. being a Sunderland supporter as well at the time, Kevin Phillips was my idol because he scored a lot of goals, and at the time I did play striker. I know it's hard to believe when you just go further back when you get a little bit older. But yeah, I mean, naturally it was always David Beckham because he was kind of everybody that looked to him, and I loved the way that he passed the ball. I thought his passing was unbelievable, and we all know that his crossing. And I know he played for the red side of Manchester, but for England he was absolutely amazing. And yeah, I would have to probably say them two, to be honest. I think at the time women's football wasn't on TV as much as it is now, so you couldn't really relate to anyone because you couldn't see any of the games, whereas now for young girls they can relate to all the girls that are in the World Cup this summer, and kind of they can be the people that can inspire them to play.
Absolutely. But for you, Nedum?
It's a good question. It's a good question. So I still to this day, I just love watching football, whether it's a Sunday League game, whether it's like a Premier League game, whether it's just a game that like when I wake up on a Saturday it's going on in like Adelaide United versus someone. I just watch football like that. When I was younger, I was watching whatever was available, whether it would be watching the Gazzetta Football Italia on Saturday, was it? Revista della Ligas and stuff. But then I also remember the like iconic 4-3 Liverpool-Newcastle's, Kevin Keegan slumped over the board, goals going and all these types of things. And when you just see all that, and then at the time I just signed for City's Academy, I was like I wasn't a million miles away from it. So I'm watching football and I feel like I'm a part of football. But the biggest step up for me was when I got a chance to ball boy at Main Road.
Yeah.
And then I'm ball boying for someone like Shaun Wright-Phillips, who's come through the academy, who's a few years older than me. And even though you see him now in Seoul and he's got grey hairs, you know what I mean? Like, I was ball boying for him in the youth cup. Well, he has.
You're jealous. You're jealous you're not out in Seoul.
No, trust me, I'm fine. So I was ball boying for him in the youth cup. And I remember I was there just kneeling down in the North Stand, watching him as the star boy play, thinking that maybe one day I'll get a chance to do this. And I enjoyed playing in the academy, but for a certain time, it was just, that was the team that I played for.
Yeah.
But then very quickly, it's like, well, he's doing what I would love to do. And to see it firsthand, to see his progression, to see him go from Main Road to like the Eastlands to the Etihad, Shaun Wright-Phillips, like, I've got to say, realistically, it was him. Even though I loved all the stars, George Weahs, all people like that from Syria, people in the Premier League, like, Shaun Wright was the guy, and then when I played with him and just met him, he was like one of the nicest guys on planet Earth, and he still is, to be fair, to this day, yeah. So I'd probably say, right, yeah.
That's...
Got to keep it in-house. No, you got to keep it in-house.
Of course,
in-house,
as well. So get that up and send it to Shaun.
No, please don't.
David?
Well, interesting. I mean, a little bit like Steph. I mean, football when I was younger was a bit like the women's game was, as Steph was referring to. I mean, it was just top football, top league football, and that was it. And it was only on a Saturday, pretty much. There wasn't that many live games. But I loved just playing football. I was more into Daley Thompson, the athlete, than any particular footballer, because I just loved what this guy did. He was an all-round sportsman. As a Luton Town fan, I went to watch Liverpool play at Kenilworth Road when I think they might have had the plastic pitch then. And there was this guy in goal for Liverpool by the name of Bruce Grobbler. And he ran out and he caught a corner on a penalty spot. And I thought, wow, what have I just seen? And then I thought, I can do that because I'm like Daley Thompson, I can run and jump. And it kind of just got me to do that. Alex Williams, it was funny actually, and forgive me to all the City fans out there who remember the day, but Luton played City on the last game of the season. And one of us needed to win to stay up, the other one was going to go down. And there's a famous thing about the Luton manager skipping across the pitch. Alex Williams was in goal for Man City. And I was gutted because he was a bit of a hero for me. He was like, all right, we've survived. But did Alex have to? He could have been substituted off and someone else could have let the goal in. But Bruce Grobbler was a game changer for me. And I think when you love the sport, like you said with Shaun, you need something to hold on to or look to inspire you to do more. And I think Bruce did it. And when I was an apprentice, Liverpool came down to Watford. Bruce Grobbler needed a baseball cap or a cap because it was sunny. So I'll go and get it. I ran up to the club shop, brought him down 3 Watford caps. He didn't wear them.
Oh.
So I signed for Liverpool and took his place.
Brilliant. Do you know as well there, just that theme in all those stories as well, just how important representation is and visually being able to see someone or something doing what you love in whatever field.
Mm.
I think that's of paramount importance. And you guys are inspiring that next generation as well. Thank you for your questions, Kane. That was a beautiful one to finish on as well. You can keep them coming in. I can bring you an update. The kickoff has been pushed back just by another 10 minutes, but that thing's confirmed now. So 12:40, we will be kicking off against Atletico Madrid. Let me recap you our starting 11 if you've just joined us on Matchday Live. Ederson in goal, Walker, Stones, Diaz, Laporte. Middle three of Rodri, Bernardo and Phil Foden. Grealish, Alvarez and Haaland. We're going to do a little focus on our midfield and attack. Not before, though, we've heard from our midfield maestro, Rodri.
Welcome to Matchday Live. It is with pleasure to say I am joined by Rodri. Rodri, there's only one place to start with you, and it is that iconic goal in our last competitive game. Please just talk me through your feelings of scoring that memorable goal for this club.
Well, of course, one of the best moments in my life, for sure. So special in the way we did it. Of course, always when you are decisive in terms of goal, I don't score many goals, but it was incredible for the team, for the club, for the history of the club all these years. And for me, because of course my career changed from that moment. But I want to keep the same way, try to grow every year, and very happy and satisfied with what happened.
You just don't score bad goals, and you score goals at such amazing moments. If there was a player who deserves it, it was definitely you. Let's talk about another City legend who's also Spanish as well, who's just recently retired, David Silva. What about his impact he's had on you personally, on Spanish football and football in general?
Yeah, I talked to him because I talked to him a few days before. I congratulate him for all his success in his career. It was unbelievable. I remember he was the main guy who helped me when I first arrived to City. He introduced me in the club, in the English culture, advised me everywhere. I remember him watching when I was a kid in the Euros, in the World Cup at City, and for me it was already a legend. And when I have the pleasure to play with him, nothing much to say. A big legend in my country, in England, and a special player. I think we're not going to have any other David Silva.
He's one of a kind, that's for sure. Let's talk about the Asia Tour. It's the last leg of the Asia Tour now. How's the tour been for you? The welcome from the fans has been incredible, and the stadiums have been great as well, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we came from a country like England that is always so crowded, and the people is crazy about football. But then when you come to Asia, to Japan, and now to South Korea, it's unbelievable. The feelings, the people, they love football, they love the passion, and they're always with a big smile, no matter if it's hot, cold, they don't care, they just support you. The other day in the training, 25,000 people, unbelievable today, I don't even know. But especially every time we come to Asia, I'm very glad for they receive me.
Well, Rodri, best of luck for the season ahead, and I hope you enjoy the game today as well.
Thank you guys, thank you so much.
Take care. Thank you, man.
Thanks, FG, and thank you to Rodri. He is starting in midfield alongside Mr. Phil Foden. So that's where I want to begin our conversation around the midfield, because Steph, I think it's something City fans have always been wanting and kind of asking for. Phil Foden playing in the middle. It seems that transition has started and is kind of here now, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it probably is the right time for Phil. I think he struggled at the end of the season to get a start in the team, and the team was playing so well, and he's being used on the left of the three, he's been used on the right, and we all know that when he was going through the academy at Man City, he was that number 10, and he was able to make things happen. And I know that Pep spoke previously about him not being able to slow the game down and maybe manage that rhythm, but he's that little bit older, he's been in the system for a long, long time, so it probably does seem right with the fact that Gundogan's left to give him that opportunity to kind of show what he can do.
I'm bringing him on in the Champions League final. I mean, we never wanted to see Kevin De Bruyne leave, but the fact that you turned to him and put him in that central role, I think kind of cemented it for me. And Phil has spoke about Nedum there. That is where he feels he can bring out the best of his game. What do you think he's talking about when he says that's where we haven't been able to see the full potential, I guess, of Phil yet?
Don't get me wrong, he's not exactly struggled out wide.
No, of course. This is just saying what him himself.
I think there's arguably more space to roam, more ways to be involved in the game, more people to link up with, because we've seen some games where he's played, I think it wasn't last season, but the season before against Man United, people said he had a great game because he stood there and didn't do anything, because he pinned back Wan-Bissaka or something like that, whereas when you're playing more centrally, you can get a better feel for the game itself. You're linking up with Rodri, with the nine, with the two wingers, with the other 10, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. As opposed to on your side, more or less, you'll see the same sort of faces across there due to their structure. And I think as well, you'll be able to time his runs into the box a bit better, knowing when to cut short, knowing when to try and stretch the game, when to drop deeper to get on it. And yeah, he'll be more involved in football matches, so you get a better sort of spectacle to see what he's like. And as David was saying before about Kovacic, you know, he's someone that can potentially break the lines with the ball as well.
Yes.
You know, as opposed to just passing it. So I think he's going to be excited for it. And it's a shame, the Champions League final, him coming on, at first he was probably surprised when it's so soon. But do you remember that skill he did? Mm-hmm. Did a little whoopsie-dupsie, whatever we want to call it. It's just the same Onana had seen that like 2 years prior, just before the shot. Because that would have been such an incredible goal. And he said that after the game. He said he was gutted that he missed it because he knows how big a goal that could have been. But that's the type of flair and understanding and ability that he has. And I've got to say, I don't know if you guys were the same as this, but when I was younger in the academy, we used to practice that turn every Wednesday night, basically. And until Phil did it, that's the first time I've seen a pro actually use it.
I can honestly say I never practiced that.
Yeah, we used to do these core skills every Wednesday. You're doing this, step overs and then that little turn. And then it was 2023. So there we go.
Champions League
It was
final.
worth it, yeah. 25 years later. I've
All
seen
those
it happen.
years, that's it.
That's what we're getting ready
I was
for.
just thinking as well, just when you were saying about kind of you and, you know, looking to Shaun, Wright-Phillips, Phil Foden, is that for our young players as well, isn't he?
Yeah, is that guy for me? If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be playing amateur football now. You know, Phil's still inspiring me to this day.
Doing that turn.
Yeah, let's be honest, on a Tuesday night.
Then let's turn to the main man, Bernardo Silva. We just I don't think can understate how important he is to this City team, and also just how much Manchester City fans love him.
How much City fans love him?
Yeah.
And us commentating
of
and
course,
watching it. I mean,
I count you all as Blues, you know.
I think that the two complement each other so well. And what Nathan was sort of quickly go, I describe Phil Foden as a radar screen. And I think when you put him on the left, you only get half the benefit. He just sees everything around him and should be able to utilise. So I totally agree with you. But Bernardo, you're talking about skills. I watch games all last season. It seems year in, year out. Bernardo runs with the ball, just shakes his hips, and the people behind him fall over. Yeah. And I'm just like, how can you still be doing it? It's just like a little wiggle, and you just lose it. I mean, this guy is, again, I think one of the reasons why I love City and watching City so much, he's just another one who doesn't have to take the show. But when you ask him to be the star moment, he steps up and delivers. Mm-hmm. People can't read him. We're talking about the best players in the world trying to defend against him. Nedum said there about when obviously City played Bayern Munich with Cancelo. It's like, give me the ball, I'm going to beat him. Mm-hmm. He's got the confidence without the arrogance or the air, and everything is just, it sits so well with everything and every other player in this Man City side. I think we can go through the whole team starting 11. I think we're going to say, I will say pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
Steph, are there any people that you've played against who are like Bernardo in the fact that when you're trying to defend against them, they're waiting for you to do something as opposed to you waiting for them to do something?
Oh, there'll probably be a few, to be honest. You know what, we were just speaking about Kelly Smith before. And I was fortunate enough to play at England with her and at Arsenal, but played against her quite a few times, and she was just so smart and so clued on, and she was a bit like Bernardo. She just wants the ball wherever she is. She'd happily go and get it off the centre half, even though she's a striker. She'd be able to dribble, and she could just turn on in terms of her rhythm and speed. She could drive at defenders, and I do see that a little bit in Bernardo. I think no matter what position he plays, he gives absolutely everything, which is, you want that in your team. You would love a team mate of yours to have his attributes, because ultimately when you have to do the jobs where you have to run back and defend, he's probably the best one at it. And for all these young players that we speak about, he would be the one that you look at and go, he's got absolutely everything. He can defend, he can get forward, he can sit in front of the defence if he needed to and get on the ball. And yeah, I think what David was saying there before, I think we can speak about a lot of players like that at Man City, but for me, in them final months of the season, he was one of the ones that really stood up and just said, right, OK, I'm going to take responsibility here, and that is why we're so desperate to keep him here, and hopefully he does, because he's now going to be one of our main players.
Couldn't agree more. Fingers crossed. Two things as well I love is, I think, his nickname's Bubblegum.
What about his new haircut, by the way?
I know, the buzz cut. I'm here for it. He looks like he's ready. Bubblegum, because the ball sticks to him, you can't get the ball off him.
Bubblegum, okay, yeah.
And the other thing I think Pep said as well, he's the only player that has the amazing capability that he can almost press press 3 players at the same time just from how he positions himself, which is... I was going to say that when you asked that question, a little bit, Hasegawa, for me, I think, has a little bit of a Bernardo about, you know, her energy, and she pops up and takes the ball everywhere.
And never, ever looks tired either.
I know,
like, literally, like, no matter how much running she does, she always probably does the most running in our games, but, like, her intelligent and just wants the ball for being so small. Like, literally, she's just not bothered who she plays against, so, yeah, I'll tell her that, actually.
Those ones are a nightmare, you know.
That's what Bernardo said.
Those ones are a nightmare, you know. You know, little ones that couldn't care less about you.
Yeah.
Like, they're tough. And when you
ask me to come play, that's what I've been described as.
They're the worst because you think, just physically take it away from them. The next thing, just running away from you. And as you were saying before about the pressing with 3, value of 3. If you've got the ball at the back and you think you've got an option on, and you see one of those little people just like standing about,
little people,
it's like, which way is it going to be? Which way is it going to be? Whichever way you pick, I guarantee they've gone there.
Is this
the moment you put your head down?
Is this why you've not called me up for football yet? You worried that I'm one of them players?
Mate, you'd be on my team, so it wouldn't even matter. That's the thing.
Oh yeah, great.
You know what I mean? Don't worry about that.
Why haven't you called me up as well?
All the good time.
I thought I was your goalie.
Sorry, my bad.
Wow.
Right, let's go and hear from somebody who has signed a brand new contract. We know him until 2027. It's thoroughly deserved. Nathan Ake. We can hear part 2 of his interview with FG right now.
What was your highlight of last season? There's one game that's in a lot of supporters' minds and mine as well, but I want to see if you say it as well. Is there a specific game where you played in and you were like, wow, that was one of my best games so far?
It's difficult.
Do you want to know what I'm thinking?
Which one?
Arsenal in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
When you scored the winner as well. Played against.
It was a very good game. It was a different kind of game because I think it was more of a chess kind of game. You know, they didn't really play out. We didn't really play out. We both pressed super high. But I think personally it went well, and obviously to score the winner.
Great finish as well. Right?
You won't see this again, I think. No, but it was a great game overall. But I think the most memorable, obviously, is the Champions League final. But it was a different kind of game. Personally, also not the best game. I think from the team, not the best game either. But I think those games stand more out than the Bayern Munich game. The Leipzig was a good one. So there's been a lot of good games.
Let's talk about the squad as well. You're quite close to a couple of players in the squad. I saw you were on holiday with Kevin. Like, how important is that, and how much have they helped you on your journey?
Yeah, very important. I knew him before I came here, so we had a little bit of time at Chelsea, not too much, but a little bit of time. He speaks Dutch, so that makes it easier. But yeah, especially after the first season, I think to already know someone and you know where you can talk to, and always you already feel like a little bit, you know, at home because you know someone and he can help you in difficult moments as well. But yeah, I think overall the squad is very good together anyway. We do a lot of things in the summer. A lot of people saw each other on holiday. Normally you want to stay away, you know, you want to stay away from everyone because you've been the whole season together. But our squad just finds each other again on holiday, and we do stuff together. And I think that shows how good we are with each other. And I think it's for sure one of my best squads I've been in. You can hang with everyone, you can chill with everyone. Everyone's very good together.
We're so happy to have you here. So the contract's been signed. What are your goals and objectives for next season and beyond?
To do even more. I think to improve more. Still things I can do much better, and I think I'm gonna work on that this season. But also as a team, we want to achieve the same or more. I think we have two new cups coming. I think everyone is excited to play in those, and to make sure we win those as well. It will be tough, but that's new objectives, and then obviously retaining the ones we have. It will be a long, hard season, but I think everyone is ready to give it all again.
Well, we're looking forward to it. Congratulations again. The fans absolutely love you. I think everybody at the club loves you.
Thank you very much.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Cheers. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, man.
He got a high five at the end there.
Yeah,
he did get the high five.
That one was okay.
Thanks to FG. Massive congratulations to Nathan Ake. So you can see there, they are pictures from Seoul in South Korea for our final pre-season game against Atletico Madrid. The rain has stopped, the pitch has dried up, and we have got just around 10 minutes until kickoff. Remember, on commentary team today, we've got Michael Brown and Alistair Mann. And if you want to watch the game, it's on City Plus. It's Recast, and if you are in Korea, it is Coupang Play. Don't forget as well that EA Sports have got a very special activation for Korean fans. You want to keep an eye on Manchester City players' shorts. There is a surprise gift involved with that little link there. And also, in addition, FC24's pre-order event in Korea is ongoing until tomorrow. So make sure you check that out. Now, before predictions, let's look at that final. Speaking of the forward three, 3 trophies there, ladies and gentlemen. That's because I don't know if you've heard, we did the treble, my friends. Gosh, I actually still, when I look at it, don't quite believe it, but it happened and it was the best. Unbelievable. Let's look at the other front three, though. Steph, Julian Alvarez, Erling Haaland and Jack Grealish. I mean, just great to see Alvarez and Haaland, I think, on a team lineup together. I love to see those names.
They really complement each other, to be honest, I think, with Haaland kind of stretching the back line and Alvarez being able to kind of get the ball and turn and try and find. And you know what Alvarez's work rate in defence is, in terms of he's so energetic, he likes to get forward, and he's really improved over this last season. So I'm actually excited to see how Pep will use him in this system, because I think they could be a really good combination going forward.
Well, it seems as though he's going to play him on the right of the three, as we were saying before. Mahrez has gone, so maybe, as you say, maybe we don't need to look further afield if this looks like a position maybe he can play. But he feels like he can play anywhere on the front three, doesn't he?
Yeah, he certainly does. You know, anything is possible for him. But then again, we're talking about a World Cup winner, so clearly he's not exactly struggling, is he? But yeah, whether he's playing on the right, centrally, I think he's going to work hard, exceptionally hard for his team. His link-up play is going to be good, and if balls can drop to him like that in the box throughout the season, he's probably going to put him down for 50, I reckon. But fair play to him for the adaptability that he has, and he just creates so many opportunities for the manager. Yeah. Whether they want him to be playing, say, high and wide, to be coming up to link in alongside Haaland, or to drop in a bit deeper as well. So he's a fantastic player, but not really surprised anymore, are we?
No.
Another good signing from Man City.
But the technical side of it as well, I think there was the assist for the John Stones goal as well. I mean, you see his feet at times are absolutely dynamite, and his link-up play is so good and was there for us all to see last season, Dave.
Yeah, I remember when he signed and we watched the video.
Yeah, we watched it. Yeah,
I delighted Kel with some clips of Alvarez's shooting, and what he was doing then was a lot of long-range shooting.
Yes.
Which wasn't replicated in the season. So straight away, there's a part where he's learning, and as you said, he's improved. And I can just imagine that he's been asked to do certain things within the team. He's adjusting and doing them, or trying to do them. And you say his link-up play is part of that. It will be interesting if he plays out wide, because the first thing I was thinking, that's a good shooting position. So maybe we'll see a few more long-range shots from him. And I think especially today against Atletico's side, I think that those openings will occur more often because they'll be quite rigid in their defensive position.
Jack Grealish, Steph, unbelievable season for him last year. As he said as well, self-confessed tricky first season. Got better last season. It feels as well, though, actually he could almost take his game to another level this season.
Yeah, you've really seen a confident Jack Grealish last season. I think that comes with games and getting your rhythm and really understanding what his role is. And I think there's so many things about Jack Grealish that I like, in terms of he hardly ever loses the ball. You can give him the ball with 2 or 3 defenders around him, and he's either drawing a foul or he's able to pass it off to somebody else. But I think in terms of his contributions, assists and goals was a lot better last season. And like you said, there's probably even a lot more to come from him, because he's had the taste of success, he's won trophies, and even like his quotes in the sports news this week is about him wanting to win the Community Shield so much, and it's probably not seen as one of the ones that you want to win as a player, but he's like, no, I've lost twice, now I want to win again. And that's kind of the mentality that he's kind of learned over the last couple of years here.
Absolutely, and that'll be rippling around the squad as well. We've not got long before we hand over to our commentary team, so we speak about him all the time. I'm sure we will throughout the season if he has anything like the season he had last season. But one word to sum up Erling Haaland, Nedum?
Just in general?
Yes, well, give me one word for him.
One word, damn it. Sensational.
Lovely. Right, teams are in the tunnel, so we are going to take a pause here in the studio. We'll be back at half-time, then at full-time. Alistair Mann has got your commentary with Michael Brown. And remember, City Plus and Recast is how you can watch it. And if you are in South Korea, Coupang Play is how you can watch the full game. Thank you so much for joining us. After a delayed start, we are ready to go. Our third and final pre-season game is Manchester City versus Atletico Madrid. Come on, City.
So at last, it does seem as though we will be singing in the rain after a torrential downpour threatened to wipe out the match completely. Thankfully, the weather has relented sufficiently for the Blues to finally complete their Far East tour with today's duel with Atletico Madrid.